What's up, everybody? We got episode number 2 of Bring the Spice now, featuring Agigas, one of the top 32 competitors from the most recent seasonal. And he managed to do it with probably, I think it was the only spicy deck, really, in the top 32, Vi Zoe, courtesy of Rubin Zoo, actually. So it's a pretty neat build, if you guys have seen it on Twitter from Rubin Zoo. And awesome stuff having Agigas on. I do apologize for some of the audio here. I think I need a new microphone or something. I don't really know. But either way, very happy to have Agigas here, another French player from the community. So without further ado, your top 32 competitor from the seasonal, Agigas, with Vi Zoe. All right, what is up, everybody? I am JDoza, joined here with Agigas, who has been a longtime player of Legends of Runeterra. And we have him here because he did pretty damn well at the seasonal tournament this past week, top cutting with a pretty spicy deck for this episode of Bring the Spice. So, Agigas, how you doing today, man?
Hey everyone, I'm doing great, and you?
Good. I'm doing awesome. I'm pretty psyched for the seasonal coming up this weekend, so that should be pretty awesome, pretty fun. But I'm more excited for this spicy deck that you brought, Agigas. This is some pretty insane stuff here. I mean, I actually just mentioned this before we started this, how everybody brought pretty standard lineups with like Nasus, Thresh, and stuff like that. But you managed to bring a Zoe Vi deck, PNZ and Targon is a pretty spicy build to top cut the seasonal with. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But first and foremost, Agigas, I want to get into you, man. I mean, I feel like I've known you a while now because you've been on the Legends of Runeterra scene for a while. But we haven't actually gotten to talk like this. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How old are you? You going to school? Like, what's going on, man?
So I'm a French student. I study computing science, and I'm 23 years old. Sometimes I forgot my phone. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing too particular about myself overall.
What are you going to school for?
Computing science.
Okay, awesome. I actually wanted to do that when I was younger. My life went a different path, let's just say. So, but
It happens.
yeah, no, it definitely does. But that's awesome, man. So awesome to hear that. I know a lot of like Elix is from France. Belius, I worked with a lot of them from the PCS Project Conquerors. So awesome, very, very good experience with French players so far in the Legends of Runeterra community. So, and you as well, an awesome player. So when did you actually get interested in Legends of Runeterra? Like, how'd you find the game? What happened there?
So, first of all, I was already a card player before Legends of Runeterra got announced. I was a Magic the Gathering player. I played like 3 years semi-competitively, and then I played a bit of Hearthstone, but not too much. I reached Legend, then I stopped pretty quickly. And I was also a League of Legends player. So yeah, when they announced that they were doing a card game, it was the perfect combination. And also I'm a student, so it was cool to have a card game free to play, so I can play competitively and not have to worry about do I have the right card to make the right deck. So yeah, it was perfect when they announced it, and I started right at the beta.
Yeah, I get the same answer from so many people where the whole free-to-play thing really was a deciding factor in starting to play. It's pretty. I've had every single card since the game basically came out, and I have not spent that much money. And it feels really good. Yeah, exactly. So if you play enough, you never
just
have to
a bit for cardboard.
Yeah, yeah, they got me with some of those boards, man. Like I ended up buying some of the Guardians and stuff. So
yeah.
All right, so what was? I don't know if I know the answer to this question. I know you've been in like a lot of Duels of Runeterra in the past and a lot of those other tournaments. What was the first Legends of Runeterra like competitive tournament that you entered?
The first where I went to?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. It was the Duel of Runeterra 2 EU,
wow.
and
Okay.
I won it actually.
Oh yeah, you did win. Oh my god. Oh wow,
Yeah.
that was so. All right, so that was actually your first tournament, your first competitive
Yeah.
tournament. Wow. All right, see that everybody. All you gotta do is enter one tournament and you win. It's that easy. It's that easy. That's
To be fair, it was still pretty small tournament, but still,
Yep.
it was cool to win on the first time.
no, yeah, that's awesome. Hey, don't take any credit for yourself, Agigas. You still won the tournament. It's fine. Yeah, it's funny. I actually had grabbed. I think it was from Tiago that had sent me some statistics from the older Duels of Runeterra, and I forgot I actually played in a tournament. I played in the first ever Duels of Runeterra and made the top cut, and that was about where that stopped. I stopped playing in tournaments after that, so started doing this whole casting bit. So, all right, awesome. So first tournament, first win. Have you managed to, with all these wins and how successful you've been with tournaments? Are you on a team right now? Are you gonna be on a team? What's going on with that?
So right now I'm with a team called the Madman, with a lot of very good tournament players like Watamai, Pest Scholar, um, Manitas also. So yeah, I'm with them, but it's for now it's a small team, and we're still looking for something big to sponsor, things like that. So I'm not in a competitive in a esports team, but I am in the prep group that is my team.
No, that's awesome. I remember when Madmen first started a couple months back. I know we've cast some of their games in the LRA. Haven't seen you play in the LRA yet, so hopefully that'll come soon.
It's very, very late for me. In the middle of the night.
Yep. All right, so then what was your? So I know you mentioned you won the second Duels of Runeterra. What's your best placement or most memorable like Legends of Runeterra competitive win or tournament right now? Is it this past seasonal or is it something else?
I mean, it has to be the seasonal.
Yep.
The seasonal is it's the only official thing right now. So yeah, it's the seasonal, but I have a lot of achievements that I'm proud of. Like I also won the Duel of Runeterra 13,
Yep.
which was pretty big. And it was on the NA side, so it was at like 3 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, and with Spooky Karma.
Whoa.
Spooky Karma,
Oh,
3
wow.
a.m. in the morning.
All right, that's impressive in and of itself. That might be one of the most impressive tournament wins ever. Spooky Karma at 3 a.m. I don't know how you did that. Wow.
The final length for more than an hour.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead. What I want to do actually, want to switch gears a little bit and go over to this deck. All right, so I actually have it up on screen for everybody else too. Obviously, you know the deck. You're the one who built it. You brought it, and just for everybody watching. So this deck was brought to the seasonals by Agigas this past seasonal, just this past weekend actually, which he top cut with top 32. And for those who don't know, they just changed the seasonal rules where it's now 9 rounds. So basically, X and 2s can end up making top cut. So it's a little bit different than what they did during the last seasonal. X and 1 and obviously undefeated are guaranteed to make it there. And I think Agigas, what did you end up ending with in the Swiss rounds?
I ended up 7 and 2.
Okay.
And thanks to my lighter placement, I made it.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so just a little bit of background. So that's kind of what happened over this last weekend. That's why I wanted to talk to Agigas here, because going through all of the deck archetypes that everybody brought to this seasonal, this was by far and away the one that stuck out. Everybody else was playing TLC and Nasus, Thresh, and all that good stuff. But this was the only deck of its kind in the top cut. So Agigas, explain this deck a little bit here. What's it aiming to accomplish, and kind of like what's like the basic win condition here?
So it's a mid-range Targon deck. You're looking to just play good stuff overall and like carve out decently and take a decent control of the board, and then you can win just like that. Actually, there is a subversible that can bring a lot of elusive damage.
Yeah. So what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of the deck then?
So I think this deck can be compared in a way to Diana Zoe Atrocity deck, the Mono Targon. But instead of going for Mono Targon splashing Atrocity, if you go for DNZ to have like small removal ways to interact easily with your opponents, which I like a lot because in the almost Mono Targon version, you if the opponent tries to do something, your sitting duck, you can't react. You just have Hush to react at burst speed, but everything you have else is like slow. So I like having small ways to interact, like Mystic Shot and get excited.
Yep.
And Vi is awesome also. Way better than Diana in my opinion right now.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that too, because there was a deck that I had always liked. A lot of the different like Targon Demacia builds in the past, especially some of the older ones from the last format with like Garen in it. They had a lot of 2-cost spells. They had the Guiding Touch, they had the single combat, they had Pale Cascade, and there were a lot of cheap ways to interact in the middle of combat or really just whenever you wanted to. So yeah, I kind of agree with you with that. I like that about this deck. I mean, you got 2 Pale Cascade, 3 Mystic Shot. You even have the Iterative Improvement, which I actually have a question on a little bit later for. So, all right. So now with taking the current format into consideration, what were some of the good matchups and what were some of the bad matchups that you were finding?
So this deck is kind of like the Emerdinger Vi of old, which is something I like a lot, in the sense that it doesn't have many bad matchups or good matchups. It's just really, really flexible. You can attack pretty much anything and you can lose to pretty much anything. But overall, you're slightly favored into Nasus, Lissandra, pretty much the whole meta actually. It has a really good matchup table. But there is one deck that you really don't want to face. It's Zoe Aurelion Sol. Because they are kind of like you, but more grindy, so they go over the top, and it can be very difficult when they play Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, last time I checked, I think Aurelion Sol is a little bit better than Vi for the late game, just a tad bit.
I mean, they trade.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she just gets up to 10 and then they trade. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, so then was that kind of what led you to deciding, okay, this is what I'm going to bring to Seasonals, was because it had pretty good matchups versus, Matron and Nasus, or was there some other reason you wanted to bring it? Or were you just like, you know what, I want to bring something fun? There's always that, too.
Nah, that was not it. It was because, I wanted to have something that I would be comfortable playing into both Nasus and Lissandra, because I was expecting pretty much everybody to play it. But I also wanted my deck to be very flexible, because you never know what you're gonna find in a seasonal. Round 1, you often end up versus triple aggro, and I don't want to lose like that. So I wanted to bring something really flexible and try to gain advantages through my skill rather than my matchup, and don't depend too much on the matchmaking this way.
I like that. I really like that. I mean, I've talked before on cast about that specifically, where there are certain decks that skilled players are going to be able to pilot, obviously a lot better than newer players, and then some decks, like a lot of aggro decks, which is why I feel like a lot of people gravitate towards aggro. Anybody can pilot those decks, and if they just like discard aggro, if it just high rolls, you just win, right?
I think aggro is actually very skilled to play, because of all the priority thing and the open attack or not open attack. I enjoy a lot playing aggro, but I think if you're less good than your opponent, then aggro is indeed the right choice, because making the game shorter will make the number of decisions smaller, so there is less room for your opponent to outplay you. Yeah, I think being like playing perfectly aggro is just as hard as playing perfectly control, I think.
I think you could be right. Like I always use Stygian Onlooker as an example. I love what that card does for an aggro archetype, because it blows out something like your opponent playing a Ruination to clear your aggressive board while you only have 2 mana left. But now suddenly 2 mana represents 8 damage, right? Like that, yeah,
that's
like
lovely.
Yeah, like you love when that happens, right? So, but you can set yourself up for stuff like that with the way that this game works with aggro. So Yeah, I kind of agree with you a little bit. All right, cool. So you brought the deck because you felt that your skill would be enough to pilot it to being successful. Um, so then, how much did you play test this? Like, did it do well in testing when you play tested it, or who did you play test with?
So this is the deck that was brought to me by my teammate in the Madman. It was Hollow. I don't know if you know him, who mentioned it.
Yep, yeah, yep.
And yeah, I tried it. And I tried it on ladder first. I like to play test things on ladder to see how they function. And it was pretty amazing. He basically winning every game and climbing hundreds of LPs on my Nace Smurf in no time. So
Awesome.
it was really impressive, yeah. And then I play tested it a bit in testing outside of ladder, but not that much actually. Actually, I didn't play the deck as much as I would have liked to, but yeah, time was running out, and I spent too much time on figuring out what lineup to bring.
Yep, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I feel like everybody has that problem, right?
Yeah.
Up
Yeah,
until 5 minutes before the tournament, you're still deciding what deck you want to play. So.
Actually, the morning of the tournament, I was like, and what if?
Yeah.
And I almost sent my whole lineup to like overwhelm Soraka Tamkench, go full target.
Oh, jeez, overwhelmed. Oh man, that would have been a flip.
Yeah.
So how often when you were bringing this and when you were playing it and going up, for the 9 rounds you were playing, how often was this deck actually banned?
Not that much because my lineup I had Lee Sin, and Lee Sin is like a bad magnet.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to face Lee Sin. So Lee Sin got banned 5 or 6 times, I'm not sure. I think this deck got banned once.
Okay.
I think once.
So you were playing this most of the day then. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole day.
All right. So now I got a couple questions about some of the specific cards in here. So first off, iterative improvement. I love this card, by the way. Not because of TF Fizz. I hate that deck with passion. But when was iterative improvement useful, and what were you finding it like? What were you finding you were using it on the most?
I think we could write a book, an entire book about iterative improvement usage. Like, this is not like TFTs. TFTs, most of the time, you play it on the Burblefish.
Yeah.
But in this deck, you have just too many targets. You are really flexible. Pretty much any card you have can be a good target, any unit. Ballistic Bot is something you copy, for example, in the TLC matchup against Lissandra, because Ballistic Bot is awesome in that matchup. You can also copy Submersible is really good to copy, like you can count elusive lethal super fast with Submersible plus iterative improvement. If you have too many discard fodders, you can copy some Dredger, things like that. And also, one thing you often copy are Celestial units, like you invoke some powerful Celestial and then you copy it.
So, okay, so you brought up Submersible. There is two Submersible.
One thing I want to add, you also often copy your opponent's unit, actually. I forgot that, but it's very useful.
Actually, no, I actually wanted to ask you that, too. So was there one unit that your opponents were playing that you always found that you were copying of your opponents? Was there, like, a specific unit, or was it also just, like, whatever seemed useful in any situation?
There isn't one thing, like, I always copy my opponent, but on ladder, I queued once against Overwhelm and I copied their Rage Yeti, and that was nice. 1 mana 6/6.
Okay.
And also against Nasus, like sometimes you can want a bit more draw to like try to find more hush for Nasus, and in that case you can copy the 4/1 that makes them draw 2.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so all right, so back to Submersible. Now, I love this card. First off, I love that so many people have tried. Like the Black Boss is another person who has tried to use this card, I think, a lot and be successful with it. But I want to know how often in the 9 rounds of Agigas was this actually hitting as a 5-5?
Pretty much every time, honestly.
Almost every time, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
I don't
that's
think
awesome.
I played it a single time as one attack in the seasonal, but I don't play it on turn 5 too.
Yeah, you're probably never at 10 cards by then, right? So
I hold it. I'm
Okay.
patient.
But I mean, listen, a 5-5 elusive that draws a card is super good, right? So
you play this during your opponent turn, then next turn, iterative improvement, you play a second one, lethal.
Yep. Oh yeah. All right.
Pretty good.
All right. That makes me feel good that you were actually getting this down as a 5-5. So I'm liking this deck the more that I'm talking about it. Okay. So speaking of things that don't usually happen, at least in other decks, anyways, Vi, how often was her level 2 hitting for 10 damage and actually providing to be like useful and like actually come into play? Was that actually ever happening a lot?
Her level up?
Yeah, like, well, not just her leveling up, but her also getting that 5 damage off to the face when she strikes for 10. Was that actually coming into play?
Yeah, sometimes, but honestly, most of the time, if you are so free with your plays that you can do that, you're already winning.
You're probably winning.
I don't think it ever changed again this tournament. Like the only time she flipped and she was useful after flipping, I was already winning anyway.
So what was she usually for, like the aggro matchups, or?
She's really good. Like it's much attack and 5 health basically. Like stuff is at least 5 health. It's a removal. It's solid. You can take a lot of small trade with her, like into aggro, and also it's the perfect Thresh removal. It's awesome to remove Thresh.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, because she'll actually live through Thresh's 3 attack as long as she's buffed up by like 4 or something like that. So, all right, cool. All right, awesome. So, did this surprise you? How good this deck did? You know, were you expecting it to do this well, or?
So when Olo showed me the deck, I didn't test it right away. I saw it and I was like, why? What is this? And I went to play something else, and then I went back and I watched it more carefully, and I was like, hey, actually, it looks pretty good. Vice looks good in this meta. Let's try it, and I was really impressed. It was a big surprise.
Okay, awesome. So, all right. So if that's the case, and I asked this of everybody. Well, I've only had one other episode of this, like I mentioned with Carsey, but I do want to ask this on every episode. So after playing this deck, you brought it to seasonals, you top cut with it. The last question that I got for you, Agigas, is this deck meme or dream? Is it a meme and it just so happens you happen to top cut the seasonal, or is it the dream and it's a fun, different deck that's also very good right now?
Dream, for sure. It's not meme at all.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear, Agigas. And that is exactly why I wanted to hit you up and exactly why I wanted to talk to you about this deck too. So, man, congratulations on top cutting, man. I really mean it. I'm very happy for you. I think if anybody deserves it, you've been playing this game for quite some time. Like I said, I've seen you at a ton of duels of Runeterra. I've casted a ton of your games, and I am super, super happy for making top cut. So congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
So that's going to do it for this episode of Bring the Spice. So I appreciate you coming on, Agigas. Thank you very much for being here, man.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And that's going to do it. So everybody, as always, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope it just works for you. Peace out. Have a great night.